So what's going on, guys? I'm Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video where today we are back with a Zombies Q&A, the series on the channel where I take your questions from the comment section below to do with the Zombies storyline, Easter eggs, and I answer them. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content, but let's get into it. Here we go, and enjoy. The first question of the day from Keaton says, "Hey BOA, if the person inside of the MPD has control of the zombies, would Monty have to be in the MPD to control them as well?" Well, you are right. In our zombie storyline, we've only ever known of 3 people who were able to control the zombies. This was Samantha back in World at War and Black Ops 1, and then Richtofen in BO2, as well as Maxis, who was the 3rd controller at the end of BO2 and Buried. When he switches positions with Richtofen, that is when Maxis gains control. But of course we've had plenty of other zombies maps after that in BO3 and BO4. The eye colour of the zombies has changed from yellow to blue to orange to red. We've even seen white. But besides from those 3 people I've just mentioned, we don't know of anyone else who's controlled them. We don't know who controls the zombies when their eyes are red, or when their eyes were white in Alpha Omega. For that one you could say possibly it was Avogadro. We do know he was inside of the APD, the American Pyramid device, but he was an entity and it wasn't the actual MPD, it was a replica, so whether that could be used to control the zombies, we still don't know. So it does seem in all of these situations, you do have to be inside of the MPD pyramid to control the zombies. And even though we're not 100% sure on how it works exactly, it is called the Ether Pyramid, so it has a link to the Ether, somehow allowing you to gain control over the undead. We know that element 115 is linked to the Ether, and the undead are created using 115, so it could have something to do with that. But getting back to your original question, if you have to be inside of the MPD to control the zombies, does that mean that Monty would have to as well? And I would have to say yes, otherwise why hasn't he done it? He's pretty much the most powerful figure in our zombies universe. From what we've seen and what Monty can do, he's more powerful than the Shadow Man, and we know he can't control the undead, or else he definitely would have. So I don't believe Monty can either. We know that he can wipe people out of existence. He was going to do that in Revelations. He can make things appear out of thin air, but it doesn't look like he can control the undead. If he wanted to, he'd have to go inside of the MPD as well. The next comment of today, which I wanted to include in this video, it's not really a question as such, but you say, "Let me just say they should make a massive mode where every character in the storyline is involved in one map, like a big map and 20 different players." Now I wanted to include this because it reminded me of something I was thinking about the other day, and that was Battle Royale, but with zombies. Just how back in the day we had DayZ, and I think the other one was H1Z1. But DayZ, when it first came out, I believe there was a mod where you could have zombies in the map, so not only were you fighting against other players, but the whole map was littered with zombies. You could say, Eli, well, they did this with Blackout, but it wasn't really. There was only certain little small areas on the map in which you would go to and zombies would spawn there. But I just think it would be really cool if there was actually a Battle Royale which had zombies as well, like they would just roam around the map. You would not only have to fight off against them, but other players. Pretty much DayZ or H1Z1, but Call of Duty. Imagine if they released a new Battle Royale in COD 2020, or an additional mode for Warzone, so you could play actual regular BR or one with zombies. That for me just would be very, very cool. They could somehow integrate it into Treyarch's lore. So a proper BR zombies I would love to see, not the one that we had in Blackout with zombies in small locations. That was just annoying. And then, as you say in your question, what about a map that includes every player in our zombie storyline? Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen because that opportunity was there in Alpha Omega. We had 8 characters, Ultimus and Primus. They were working together. That was Treyarch's perfect opportunity to give us 8 players on one map, but they never did it. Remembering off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure the explanation for that was the fact that they didn't want to overcrowd the story. Having 8 players in that map, it's not the biggest, might not have been the best anyway, and then to have to focus on the storyline of 8 different characters is a lot harder than 4. We learned quite a bit about our crew in Alpha Omega. There were some emotional parts, and just having 8 characters would have been a lot harder to connect with than it is with 4 characters. Plus 20 or however many main characters we have in zombies, it is an awful lot. It sounds cool, but I don't think it would work. The next question from Camden says, does Brutus control the zombies in Grief? Because it sounds like he is the announcer. So as I've said previously, we don't know who controls the zombies with red eyes. That's what colour they have in Blood of the Dead or Mob. Grief, or Cell Block as it's actually known, doesn't seem to be canon but does have its own storyline. It is a riot that's taking place in Alcatraz between the prison guards and the prisoners, and pretty much they have to fight to see which group can survive against the undead. It's the same as Grief on other maps like Farm and Town. The only difference is it is prisoners versus guards instead of the CIA versus the CDC. So the whole point is just to see which group can last the longest, and if you listen to the quotes in the map, the announcer is the Warden. When you first start up the game, he will say this:
"Riot in progress! This prisoner's in lockdown! Only one team can survive!"
So he tells us that there is a riot in progress. It's almost like he's watching over what's happening. When one of the characters, either guard or prisoner, dies in Cell Block, the Warden then says this:
"We're not done yet."
So he says, "We're not done yet." It's almost like he brings that character that died back to life, which is strange. How does the Warden have the power to do that? We know in Blood or Mob, the Warden is Brutus. It's almost like he set up this whole scenario. He wants the guards and the prisoners to fight it out, and every time they die, he brings them back. Saying that we're not done yet is almost like he's saying we can't die, he doesn't want us to. This feels like a game to him. How does the Warden have the power to bring the dead back? Is it something to do with the purgatory, the afterlife? Was this whole situation set up by him? Did he have something to do with the riot beginning? To answer your question, I don't think it means he controls the zombies. We've already discussed that you probably have to be in the MPD to do that, but I do believe he's controlling this whole situation. He decides when the guards or prisoners die. We are his pawns. Dewey Jones says, BOA, on Kino, why is there a blank picture on the wall? Could it possibly be the bald guy in the loading screen? Also, love your vids. So on the channel, I've been over my opinions on what I think of this quite a few times now, so I'm just going to go over it quickly for those of you who haven't seen my other videos. As I'm sure everyone will know by now, back in Kino Der Toten, there are 5 pictures or portraits on the wall. We can see Richtof and Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, but the 5th one is blank. It is just a silhouette of someone, but we don't know who this is. Now if you go up to this portrait as any of the 4 Ultimus characters, Richtof and Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, and you press the interactive button on it, they will all say a little quote about this portrait.
Hey, someone stole the image from this picture.
This one didn't photograph so well.
Maybe what was is no more, but shall be again.
As you just heard, they don't seem to say anything too important. Takeo's is the most interesting. He says, what once was is no more, but shall be again. However, that still doesn't tell us who the 5th blank portrait character is, and this Easter egg's been in the game since Kino in 2010, and this was left unanswered for all those years. And then we come to more recent times in BO4, where it seemed like possibly we could have got an answer, because in Classified, we can see 2 more portraits. One of them again is Ultimus Richtofen. This one was in the original map, 5. We know the explanation for this one. It was put here by the Americans upon Richtofen's request. Richtofen helped the Americans, he gave them information, and in return, Richtofen requested them to put up a portrait of him in the Pentagon, and that's exactly what they did. So that explains this one, but a second portrait was added to Classified, and this one's blank as well. What's different to this one, compared to the Kino one though, is there is actually an Easter egg you can do in the map which will reveal it. If you knife a few different paintings and then go up to it and press the interactive button, the blank portrait will be revealed as Primus Nikolai, and the one of Ultimus Richtofen will disappear. Now when this was first discovered, everyone was saying that this finally solves the Easter egg in Kino. The blank portrait was Primus Nikolai all along, but if you compare the two, they don't really look similar. The silhouettes aren't the same. Nikolai's face doesn't fit in the Kino Der Toten blank portrait, and also it doesn't really make sense. What this Easter egg in Classified seems to be telling us is that Primus Nikolai is now becoming the leader. That's exactly what happened. In Blood of the Dead, he took charge, he was handed the canorium, he basically took the role of Primus Richtofen, but why the portrait of Ultimus Richtofen fades away is a little bit unclear because it's Primus Richtofen that dies, not Ultimus. Ultimus Richtofen is very much still alive, and he's helping Primus Nikolai, so how Primus Nikolai replaces Ultimus Richtofen, again, doesn't make sense to me. And I don't believe that's proof that the blank portrait in Kino is the same person who was in the blank portrait in Classified, which was Primus Nikolai. It could have been him, but I think there's the same chance that it could also be Pablo Marinus, the 5th test subject. It could be Dr. Monty, the Shadow Man. Some people say Peter McCain. There are plenty of theories out there. Anyway guys, there we go, that is it. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.